Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Oishi, joining from Boston, and I'm super excited to moderate this conversation for the theme launch of Iris Plus Marine Resources Conservation and Management theme. As folks start to join in, I'll start with a quick note of thanks for the incredible contribution we've had with over 100 stakeholders throughout the span of 2 years that the Gen has been working on this theme, as well as the generous support from the Walton Family Foundation to make this work possible, and our partnership with PFC Impact Advisors and Gail Peterson for the pre-public comment version of this theme, as well as various participants throughout the public comment period that we just wrapped up a month ago. And I see many familiar faces here, so thank you for your continued dedication and engagement. I work with the Gen's Iris Plus IMM team, and I'll be the moderator for this conversation. And super excited for an all-women panel, which is often, unfortunately, rare in the ocean space, but we are working towards bridging that gap as well with our work. So without further ado, I'd like to start with some housekeeping. So please keep yourselves on mute. We will have a Q&A section at the end of this, so you will be able to ask questions on the chat. You will be able to react to other questions, vote them up, and I will be transferring those questions to individual speakers. If your question is for a specific speaker, you can raise that. I'd also say that if possible, do engage on the chat, even if you have comments that you'd like to make other than these questions, which is so great for this community of ocean impact investors that we are trying to support. I will kick us off with introduction, starting with some frequently asked questions we get on Iris Plus and how we develop our themes, and then getting more deeper into the content that is launching, and then kicking off our panel. So I would like to start by introducing our panelists who are joining us from various parts of the world, literally various continents. So firstly, I'm introducing Ingrid Morstad, who's the Impact Director at Catapult Ocean. We have Gail Peterson, who's the Director at Oxford Impact Investing Program at University of Oxford Said Business School. We have Carmen Escobar joining from Ocean Impact Navigator and is part of the 1,000 Ocean Startups Coalition, and I see some faces there as well. So super excited. Thank you so much for our panelists for their time and contribution for the development of this theme as well, and we'll be hearing more from them. But before that, just starting with the frequently asked questions. So the first thing I'd like to answer is the Iris Plus theme development is a continuous collaborative process that expands beyond the membership of the Gen. And we have, beyond the content that you will see as part of this theme, we have various content in Iris that cross tags to various impact areas, and also like cross tags to various interests that you have based on your theories of change that can give you an even wider and more nuanced set of metrics and indicators for your own impact portfolio. We also have this entire content co-created with experts and users. So over 100 to 200 experts are consulted on average for each theme. And our working groups are on average 30 to 50 member groups. We go through a 60-day public comment period when we launch the beta version, and that reaches an even wider network. And for the ocean, we were able to engage even beyond the very small, much smaller niche of impact investing community. We were able to engage various diverse stakeholders, community-focused organizations, think tanks who are very new or just curious about the impact investing world, however, have various deep insights that the impact investing community can benefit from. So that was really incredible. And then after the launch, we also do a number of deep dive webinars that help investors understand how to map these metrics into their impact framework. So quick update on our active and recent themes. So we just published a couple of months ago the theme Climate Adaptation and Resilience that is up for use on Iris Plus if you'd like to view them. We also have currently in development the Iris Plus Waste Management theme, which is supported by Aspen Network for Development Entrepreneurs, and our theme partner is Circle Economy. For that, the beta version is launching in September and the final version is launching in December. And today we are launching the Marine Resources Conservation and Management theme. And let's dive in. So we are starting with 4 strategic goals, which are the anchors, the basically the desired end states we have for investors who are investing in this topic with this impact area in mind. So we have 4 strategic goals, which have each have more than 5 to 6 outcomes as part of these strategic goals and outcome indicators and core metric sets. So the 4 strategic goals are improved climate adaptive capacity for coastal communities, improving marine conservation by reducing pollution, improving marine conservation by protecting and restoring marine, increasing adoption of just practices in marine resources management. In addition to these 4 that's launching in Iris, there are already existing strategic goals that were previously included as part of other relevant and cross-linked themes that are also available for investors to use. But we will focus on the new ones for this webinar. But when you are actually in Iris, you'll be able to see an even wider selection of goals, as I've said. So as part of this theme, we have over 50 new metrics and indicators, as well as associated definitions, glossary terms, evidence, resources, overviews, which comes with the narrative for each of these strategic goals, as well as usage and calculation guidance for both individual metrics, as well as indicators that measure a various combination of these metrics. And for our advanced users are familiar that both usage and calculation guidance are super critical for the measurement of your impact. So this is how the version in Iris Plus looks like. So if you are in Iris, and I will also drop this on a follow-up email after this webinar. For those of you watching it offline as well, you'll be able to join. If you're new to Iris Plus, you'll be able to join our demos and learn more. But this is how it will look on the Iris website when these 4 tabs are essentially the 4 goals we have, the new ones. And then each of them come with these sections that start with a summary overview, as well as evidence, that links the outcomes with the strategic goals based on very well-researched evidence that we've looked into in the discussion with working group, as well as throughout the development, as well as the tailored core metric sets and additional resources for investors. So what is new and very exciting about this theme is that we have a communities first approach that we took from the very beginning with our working group. So really focusing on how to uphold stakeholder voice meaningfully, as well as, not just looking into one, but multiple parts to it. So we have actually more than 1 strategic goals in this theme. And this is for the first time it happened that we have more than 1 strategic goals focused on communities. And we have a focus on stakeholder representation and accountability. We have multiple outcome indicators for the same strategic goal and outcome to support wider theories of change. And we tried to kind of test this out, and it worked really well with what we learned from our working group members and in the public comment. And another unique part of this development was also some workshops we ran with investors in our working group who invited their investees and joined together to map the draft Iris metrics in their respective impact measurement framework and kind of see side by side how the entire flow of data looks like, and how the entire flow of questions and answers in that impact measurement framework looks like. So that was very interesting and insightful to truly understand the practicality of our metrics. So what you can do after this webinar is, of course, you can explore new content, you can attend our live workshops, you're able to provide feedback on IRIS at all times, and you can get involved in the development of our current and future themes. So just quickly, for those of you who are new to the GIN, the GIN, the Global Impact Investing Network, is the global champion of impact investing, dedicated to increase its scale and effectiveness around the world. We are, of course, a community of practice of over 400 investors, but our members, of course, exceed the investors as well throughout the world. We do offer tools, guidance, and resources to integrate impact considerations into their investment management, as well as publishing market trends, evidence, and insights to continuously enable more insightful and informed decisions and collaboration across the impact investing community beyond the GIN membership as well. For those of you who are new to IRIS, IRIS Plus has existed for over 15 years, and we are a set of tools and guidance and indicators and metrics, and the entire goal of IRIS Plus, as you know, are to translate impact intentions into measurable results. For those of you who have been with us throughout this time, you've seen the shift from IRIS to IRIS Plus, which was basically a catalog of metrics, and now it's so much more with the new the website and the features that we have as part of connecting various strategic goals, indicators across various impact targets and metrics for individual theory of change. So that is, for those of you who'd like to explore that, we would highly recommend that please do use the IRIS Plus Frameworks Builder as well to explore all these features. So every SDG target identified as investable has a related and comprehensive set of IRIS metrics. So 78 SDG targets currently align with IRIS Plus metrics, and 83% of our catalog of metrics aligns with SDG targets. So these metrics, we have currently over 750 metrics in the IRIS Plus catalog, and they have been developed in consultation with over 1,800 stakeholders around the world and sourced from over 50 standards and frameworks. And I will skip to quickly give you a view of the theme development process. So we start by developing the theme by starting to focus on the strategic goals and then building them further into an outcome level, and then breaking them down into measurable outcome indicators, and then finally creating the standardized metrics and related content for each theme. So the process goes somewhat like this. We start at the very left of it, we start with the casting a wide net and looking into everybody who can contribute, potentially like exploring like what the investor practice, what are the gaps, a long list of theories of change, and various outcomes that are tracked on a discovery stage. And then further down, going kind of narrowing down into defining the practice with what's available evidence is telling us about what's working, what's effective, and then further casting a wider net once we've selected the outcomes, going broader and then understanding what broadens the scope of these strategic goals. So what within an outcome should be measured widely and measured better and measured more deeply, and then further kind of scanning down, narrowing down by collecting various feedback in what is working in practice, what is actually feasible to collect data on, what is useful, and what is commonly widely applicable to a various stakeholder, and then further narrowing down into standardization. So the first half of this section, as you see, is led by expert theme partners for each theme, and the second half is led by the GIN, and throughout this process, our working group and consultation groups are thoroughly involved. So without further ado, I would like to kick us out with the panel section of our webinar today. And I would like to kick us out with the discussion question, which is, what are the most pressing impact measurement and management challenges we see in the ocean space? And I'd like to invite Gail Peterson, to share from her experience as a partner and contributor to this theme, about her experience in learning from the working group, as well as her incredible work in the space for a really, really long time. So starting with you, Gail, over to you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I want to thank Oishi in particular. She has been absolutely amazing throughout this process, and the Gin team has too. It's felt like family. And going through your presentation, Oishi, I'm going, how did you make such a logical explanation out of something that was so chaotic and wonderful at the same time and very organic? So well done to the Gin team and to the working group members. As Oishi pointed out, I direct the Oxford Impact Investing Program, and the way we approach our strategy is in many ways reflected in the Iris Plus strategy goals. We look specifically at how do you include as many diverse stakeholders in a process as possible to address the issue of lost in translation. You've got colleagues from the NGO community who are on the water, really looking at biodiversity issues, gender issues, indigenous communities. You've got investors who are maybe new to oceans but are passionate about it. You've got public agencies, and an entire mix of colleagues in between. So how do we as a team reflect what's needed to create systems change and conserve oceans and marine species? So for us, it became a process of how we model that behavior in our classroom in action investing, and what we can do and actually allow us to measure impact. One of the most exciting things for me, and I think that the challenges we're facing in terms of geopolitics right now, is how do we ride the wave of chaos? Resources are being cut in terms of availability of funding for ocean conservation, for community development. So how do we as a community unite around those and actually use Iris Plus as a way of helping us all align what's possible given the circumstances that we're faced? I also think it's really important that the process isn't about dogma. The strategic goals are opportunities to guide your work. And I think, as Oishi pointed out, one of the most exciting areas is the focus on community and justice. That has been excluded often from the investment practice. So allowing us to include community voices in the investment process is really important, and conservation process. So that's essential. And I think that's going to become even more challenging going forward. The Iris Plus standards we've identified, again, working with 100 plus colleagues to develop these standards or guidelines, is really an opportunity for you to begin to take those options and to begin to think how they apply to your own work. Recognizing you need to be flexible. Your own circumstances will allow for your own theory of change to develop that's relevant to you. So these give you guidelines and an opportunity to begin to think through what your theory of change is and how you can begin to incorporate those KPIs and those measurement tools. They're guidance, not dogma. And reaching out and modeling your own behavior as you're developing your own KPIs and your own measurement strategy. Again, bring to the table those diverse voices as you're working in your own community, your own circumstances, to address issues of pollution, to address issues of conservation, to address issues of justice. And it will result in a more dynamic, flexible, and appropriate strategy for you. Iris Plus is the foundation from which you can begin to build out your own impact measurement strategy. Oishi, you want me to continue to speak? Or go to the next panelist.
I'm just sorry, I was on mute. I'm going to come back to you just in a couple of minutes. Thank you so much. And I loved what you said about it's guidance, not dogma, and we'll elaborate more on that in a bit. Ingrid, I would like to now move the microphone to you, the virtual microphone, and ask you your experience of working in the working group very actively throughout the very beginning and throughout the process, as well as participating in the very interactive workshops with your investors. As well as your work as well in this space for also so long. What would you say are the most pressing challenges?
Yes, from our perspective, we have 75 companies in our portfolio, and we take them through the accelerator program. So that's I think good for us because we have some time with the companies to work with them. So we can teach them how to do this or take them through our processes. Because I think it's been a jungle out there. It's a lot of different metrics and a lot of different requirements from different investors. And there's a span between, okay, the startups, they need to prove the impact that they have. And the investors, that want to show the impact, but the investors want to aggregate this impact in a way. So that's challenging, especially when there are many different tools or, yeah, not really, previously at least, nothing that really fitted well into the ocean space. So we're taking the companies that we have through a process where we're using Ocean Impact Navigator, and I think that's a good starting point for them to understand that it's not that difficult. It's they have to start measuring. So we're starting. It's very aligned, I think, through the whole process here, where we starting very simple with the companies with a problem, solution, impact. So just for them to understand, I think many of these companies they know they have an impact, they don't know where they want to be, but they need to understand, okay, you need to prove this as well. So you can't just continue as usual. You need to have numbers on the table as well for investors and for other people. So starting with very high level with problem, solution, impact, and then diving down to the theory of change of the company for them to understand, okay, where do we actually have a positive impact here? What these are the activities that we do, and these are the impact that we want to have, and how can we measure that along the way? And then we can start looking into the metrics, and we're actually using Ocean Impact Navigator as a first starting point. And for the more companies that are more into this and have been doing this for a while, we're also introducing, we have both options, so they can also add the IRIS plus metrics as well. But it just about need to start slow and start measuring something instead of starting everywhere at the same time. We had in a company, in an accelerator program a few years ago, a company that wanted to measure like 30 KPIs, and that's way too much. They won't be able to do that because it's not doable. So start with a few, just 3 to 5, and then they can build out instead. So I think that's yeah, how we do it at least.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. And I would like to ask follow-up questions to all of these. I'll come back in a second. And Carmen, would you like to go next and introduce yourself and your work, and help us understand the challenges that you address from Ocean Impact Navigator side, as well as what would you say are the most pressing ones in IMM for ocean investors?
Yes, thank you very much, Oishi. And yes, so I am Carmen. I am the Ocean Impact Navigator Project Manager of 1,000 Ocean Startups. 1,000 Ocean Startups is a coalition that is meant to accelerate ocean innovation. So we work with mainly two types of organizations, rather investors, and also with entrepreneur supporting organizations to really create a coalition that works toward accelerating ocean innovation for ocean health. The coalition is hosted at the World Economic Forum, and basically what we do is working in different type of projects. The Ocean Impact Navigator is a project that was developed by a working group composed by members. And really the reason why this project was developed was because within all of our members, they realized that it didn't exist metrics, ocean metrics that could respond to the requirements for scalability in the space. So basically, there are some ocean metrics, but there was not such a thing that could respond to the innovation space that really requires to see, okay, the solutions that we're building, what is the real impact that they are creating. So at the end, the reason of creating the Ocean Impact Navigator was that basically it responds to three main challenges. That is basically the approaches to impact measurement were disjoint. We really wanted to ensure KPIs that are impact oriented, and that is a real challenge, as you both have already described. And there was a mixed willingness between the reporting part, that it's one side, and actually the impact that the startups are creating, like from the ground. So the answer to this is the OIN, that it is an open source impact KPI framework, that it is really designed to simplify and strengthen impact measurement and reporting within the ocean impact innovation ecosystem. So this leads me to something that is very important, and one of the main challenges that we see is that there is like a fragmentation of metrics and frameworks. And what we are doing with the Navigator is working in the space of innovation and really helping our members, like for example, Catapult, to have a framework that can help them work with their portfolio startups to start understanding how their theory of change could be measured. But it's also important, and there's like a big challenge also in the sense that we want to aggregate data from all of our members, and we're seeing still data scarcity. I mean, it is hard to collect the data. We know that collecting data from the ocean space is different than from other ecosystems, and we need to support members so that they can also support their startups in how to actually collect the data in a standardized way, and also in a way that they are collecting it periodically so that we can see and understand what is the speed of change and transformation. And I think it's also important to mention that there needs to be also like a community and a community-centered, let's say, impact that also helps them understand, okay, what are the metrics that from a community perspective could be, let's say, translated to afterwards connect that with all the financial and investment world, that it's really the fuel that could lead us to really scale the sector. So basically that are the main challenges that we have identified, and we are working well, really with Oishi and with all the Iris Plus team to really get like also a notion of understanding, okay, how can we align at a strategic goal level, but also at a metric level, and support the whole ecosystem with understanding how to measure and create this scalable and replicable for all.
Thank you so much, Carmen. And again, I'll get back to you in a second. But it was so incredibly, I think, a helpful exercise to map the Ocean Impact Navigator indicators from the very beginning into the team development process for us. And also, what I find often so fascinating about Iris Plus is that even before we had any ocean-focused content, already when OIN had come up, it already kind of utilized a lot of the Iris metrics because of the granularity that it is able to offer. And we're super excited to continue to build on that granularity. So I will I will switch slightly from the existing topic on challenges, or kind of like expand on it, and I'll ask a follow-up question to Gail. Whether, Gail, with Iris Plus, the way we work, we look into building this standardized content, we look into the measurability, we look into the feasibility of like whether it is feasible to measure and collect data, and also like how widely applicable or scalable are these metrics for various users who want to utilize Iris metrics. So my question is, how important do you think the data collection problem is in this, and how can we address that as part of like the guidance that we offer, as part of like additional considerations that we offer to the Iris users or the impact investing community?
I mean, I think that ongoing nature of it's important. KPIs and IMM are iterative and need to be constantly reflected on, right? So it's an adaptive process. It's not we go back to the word dogma. I think how Jin and our working group members and the colleagues, Carmen and Ingrid, how we continue to support our community and learn together as we're finding what's working and what doesn't, as we're developing these working standards and suggestions. That's going to be really, really important. How do we iterate as a community, and how do we continue to learn together? And I think Ocean Impact Navigator is fantastic. And I love the fact that it's a united effort to come together. The Iris Plus is similar, how those align, and ultimately, how do we both, they're all of us iterate together as we're learning, because that's what's going to be rich about this. What's working, what doesn't, how do we adapt, and how do we share that information, not just aggregate data, but aggregate lessons learned. How do we do that openly? Because there will be failure, there will be successes, and how do we accelerate and scale knowledge, honesty, and create a culture of that openness that I think is really important. And it's often when we perceive something as failure and we're in high risk areas, we close down. How do we open the door for us to have open conversations about, we tried these metrics and they didn't work, or we had to adapt them. So how do we iterative learn together? And what's the role of Jin to actually allow the community to learn together? So I would challenge us as a provocation to have continuous learning. And this is a launch pad for that new approach, ongoing iterative learning.
Thank you so much, Gail. I think I will lead with that to Ingrid and ask, when I know that the due diligence process you have that widely involves various criteria. You look into like very different types of organizations that you work with, you want to partner with. A lot of them also partner with communities or work closer to communities. I would like to ask, like, what are some of these impact considerations you make, and how much standardization or standardized content can actually help in due diligence for organizations and VCs like Catapult in the ocean space?
Yeah, I think that is important, absolutely. You have the very strict side is the SFDR. I think that's more strict than the positive impact side. So just making sure that companies are not having any negative impact, that's really important for us. So we need to take them through this risk assessment. That's first, okay, do they have any potential for impact? And then, okay, is there potential for negative impact? And we need to mitigate that as well, or measure that. And also outside in risk, is that a risk for that something can happen to the company that we didn't see before? So we need to try to run all these scenarios. So that's really important. But of course, you have a standardized metric. It's much easier because now we've been developing since the last couple of years. But of course, we would like our scouts as well to look at this when they're scouting for the companies, so that I won't have to go through all the companies that we're looking at. So it's just, duplicating ourselves and making the process more efficient, I think. So that it helps a lot, absolutely. So we're mapping this through different metrics now to see how they fit in, if they're having a positive impact. But I just have to mention, I absolutely agree with Gail as well, which is this is not we're not the final stop, I think, on impact metrics. This is will continue to develop as we grow and learn more. So it's always, but it's good to start somewhere and then improve instead of starting from scratch.
Yeah, and I think for both Carmen and Ingrid, you work in the innovation space, which is so critical for the ocean space, and it is so difficult to standardize innovation. I mean, it's so difficult, but also there are parts of it that are super useful in terms of grounding something that is like finding a common ground between like various innovators, which can be tricky. But on the impact side is also necessary. So I would like to follow up, ask a question to Carmen about your experience of working with as managing, another like a very, very large community of practitioners who are already contributing and using the metrics that you have for Ocean Impact Navigator. But what really makes it work for or does it really make it work for everyone? Or is there anything that you do that is unique to make the standardized content more applicable to the wider user base that you have?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for that question. It's very important. I think so basically the OIN was meant to be like as a reporting tool, but what we have discovered through our the experience of using it and really trying to work with the members is that we have developed a general framework that has different KPIs that need to be, let's say, selected depending on the space that you're really working. The ocean is an emergent space. I mean, the oceans as an investable opportunity is still in its early stages, or that's what we want to think about. We recently were part of UNOC and the BEF, and we have seen a great potential of growth within the space, but it's still a sector, let's say, that is developing. So what we have seen from our members is that the framework is being incorporating as part of their impact measurement systems. So each member has looked at this framework and they have incorporated as part of the way that they are working with their startups. So we have different type of, for example, different type of investors that are looking into more niche solutions for a specific subsector in the oceans, or we have also other investors that are investing more widely in different sectors or even in different stages. No, we have members that are supporting really early stage entrepreneurs, and we have others that are supporting entrepreneurs that have already like some records and have already get to some level, let's say, of growth within their ventures. So basically what we have seen is that the OIN is used as part of the way that they are understanding impact. And I think something that is also very interesting for us is that we are working also with entrepreneur supporting organizations, who are the organizations, for example, accelerators or venture studios or accelerator programs, even challenges. And for them, it's also very relevant because they are guiding the entrepreneurs to understand how do they continue scaling their solutions. And the sooner you are understanding and you are starting to measure what's the impact that you are creating, the sooner you can scale and also access to financial resources. So that's something that has been really interesting. So just to close, we have seen the framework is used also for scouting solutions. We have seen that the framework is used in the due diligence phase, also from the investor's perspective. And we are seeing that it's also used as a reporting framework, no? So it actually exceeded what it was meant to do, and we are really trying to understand how to move forward from that perspective.
Thank you so much, Carmen. And I think I'd like to also add that it was really like I think very incredible to find that how many of our working group members, when we started working, were actually using Iris metrics for their due diligence. And we saw that in the presentations, both when we had a panel at the Gen Impact Forum last year, as well as the launch of the beta version of our marine theme, that how investors like Pegasus or NatureVest is actually using Iris metrics in due diligence. And I would say that for a lot of them, it's a nervous start, but then kind of like figuring out like how it can actually meaningfully adapt to their impact measurement framework. And then I think the stretch there is linking that with exactly what they're trying to prioritize and balance and the trade-off. And we tried to include a lot of guidance specifically for this theme and the last theme we launched for individual users to understand, like, you know, what is the intended use of these indicators? Where can they be useful? What are some of the examples of other investors using similar indicators? So we really hope that that new addition will guide our users to understand like where certain indicators and metrics are more useful.
I would like to add something about the innovation part, that it's something that you just asked that I forgot to say, that it's important. It's because like measuring innovation is also like a challenge in general, no? You are designing a solution that is new, no? So it has different components. And I think it's very important to generate credibility when we're talking about ocean innovation, because since solutions might be proposing something that it rather doesn't exist or that doesn't has like specific proof, then you need a way to understand, okay, how are you actually going to create some sort of credibility about what you're building, and how are you yourself going to know that what you are proposing really creates like a positive and mitigate potential negative impacts, no? So I think that's why it is also very important, the work that we are doing, well, all together.
So
Thank
Oishi,
you.
I've got just a question for my colleagues to have that conversation too. Do you think there is a venue right now where those lessons learned are being collected? Is Iris Plus and Gin the vehicle for that? And how do you individually within your own institutions gather those lessons learned that might be shared? Innovation, by the very name, is we talk about innovation and scale as though they're simultaneous, they're the same thing, synonymous. They're not, right? Failure rates in innovation are 80%, right? 90% sometimes. So how do we acknowledge the challenges that we face in a time of crisis? Our oceans are in crises, right? So how are we as a community beginning to understand those challenges, gather those lessons so that we can all learn together? What's the approach that should be used? And are you already doing that? Sorry, Oishi.
No, thank you, Gail. That's a great question.
I think we can absolutely improve. We are sharing within the 1,000 Ocean Startups, we're sharing knowledge, but not that organized yet, I would say. So we absolutely share more. Because there are challenges, absolutely. So some of the companies have long-term impact goals, but they're not there yet. So they're developing towards that, but they need to prove that they're on the right track. So that's what we're challenging them to do. And also we talked earlier that some companies would have to take some side steps to get a commercial runway for the products, and the impact goes here, but then okay, they need to take some side steps to get there. So just how do they share that? Okay, we're actually on the right way. This is part of the plan, or maybe not, but this is where we want to go. So I think that's important. So just to share that knowledge and have communities to do that, that's important.
Yes, definitely. Giles, thanks so much for that question, because that's also a project that we really want to work on. And it's like strengthening the community of practice. We have done some specific sessions. I think both Catapult, Swen are leading the conversations. We also have Ocean Hub Africa that was sharing their experience working as an entrepreneur supporting organization in Africa. We had a session during UNOC, and then when you are really getting into see what are the cases and how this is being used, you're also understanding what are the challenges and what are the assumptions that you have to do within the process. Yes. So when you're working with a new venture that is proposing something, then you select, as Ingrid was mentioning, you have to select just a few KPIs. You cannot select many, even if you are willing and you want and have the desire. You really have to narrow it down at least 2 or 3 to really understand. And then you need to see, okay, now I have the KPIs. How do I measure? And if it's a new solution, you have to be also creative and even innovative in how are you going to measure? How do you engage, for example, if you're doing a solution for aquaculture, then how are you going to engage with the fishermen? And how are you going to translate that knowledge and that specific selection to them? And how are you going to collect the data, etc., so that then it can be somehow reported to us, and as a whole ecosystem we can aggregate the data and know, okay, what's the impact of innovation. But it's, like it does require some challenges, and I would say that it also requires some assumptions, because we are developing the solution is not completely developed, it's in the process. So you have to do some specific assumptions, start measuring and see what's the result, and then from there continue iterating the measurement process. So yeah, but I think this really strengthens the need for having like a much more stronger community of practice, because I mean we are really sure that within the members and like all the organizations we work, there's a lot of knowledge that we can somehow share with each other to see, okay, how are you doing it? How can you other do it? No, so that's actually the reason of the coalition that we're working. And I think the work that we have ahead with Iris Plus is basically to really work at a more detailed level to also continue that alignment. And I think that's going to be also very enriching for the ecosystem as a whole.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Person. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks, Gail. I think I would like to extend your question, Gail, to actually my colleague Panayota from the GIN, who's our lead impact strategist and the woman behind Iris Plus. So Panayota, would you like to add anything? I'll just bring you to the spotlight for a second. I apologize.
I just really love that question, Gail, because it's so much at the heart of the GIN, being a network for impact investors. And we really make every effort to bring practitioners together, because the learning that can happen can accelerate everybody's practice. And for Iris Plus, having a collaborative approach that brings practitioners, thematic and technical experts, but also tries to build on existing standards and frameworks where there has been behind them so much effort to understand what works, to learn from practice, and to build consensus, that is very valuable. And we try to elevate that and bring it in a format that speaks to a great swathe of impact investors by utilizing such central impact mental models like the theory of change and the 5 dimensions of impact. And also just to call out all of you who are, by being part of this process, by lending your time, your insights and resources, are in the process of sharing and allowing everybody to learn with you.
Thank you so much, Panayota, for adding that. And yes, we do from the very beginning of the theme development, try not to reinvent the wheel. We do not, like, as the way we develop Iris metrics, we look into what's there and what's working and how can we integrate and aggregate that. And I think with that, I will, before I open the floor for Q&As, and we're already starting to see questions. My last question is, we talked about the importance of shifting systems, shifting and challenges in measuring innovation, measuring realistically responding to market and community needs, as well as looking deeper into data collection and challenges in data collection. I would like to ask, like, for all the various challenges we've discussed today, which ones would you say are standardized content like Iris Plus can address? And I think I will start with you, Gail.
Thank you. I think, Oishi, the fact is that we have those strategy goals and actually indicators, and that we have this rich community. I would say we have the frameworks that people can use now to begin the measurement process. And I think Carmen's work is remarkable, Ingrid's work is remarkable. It needs to be implemented now. And I don't think it's my research is in wicked problems and complexity, and oceans is part of that, and climate and people. You have to start somewhere with a small step, whether it's 3 indicators or 2 indicators, and recognize you're building a culture of openness and honesty, but you're getting started. And I think that there's enough out there right now to say, what do we measure? Let's get started and let's do it together. So I would say we've already done the research. The data collection process is up to those who are using it, but the guidelines are there. The roadmap is there to get started, and recognizing there will be bumps, and to acknowledge those and to embrace them, because that's the world in which we live right now. And so I think there are no surprises now. Get started. I think that's really the piece for me. Get started.
Thank you, Gail. And I think I will add that in the way we've seen, we've interacted with various Iris Plus users, of course, implementation is kind of like the remaining piece. You know, we can't enforce impact metrics. But what we've seen, I think one of the really, really significant contribution of Iris Plus is like kind of modeling good investor behavior in a way that, you know, it's kind of like, because a lot of people are using it, I want to also use it, and I also would like to be able to use it use IRIS metrics, standardized metrics in a way, because I want to kind of keep up where the community is moving, which is towards more transparency. So that I think a kind of uniqueness that can be added to implementation, but perhaps more as we grow as a community. So I think I'll relay the same question to you, Ingrid, as well. Like, what do you think standardization cannot do?
Yeah, I think also it's really important for the companies to start small, and the tools are there. But I think also for investors, be a bit patient with the startups and take them through the process. Because if you're just handing them a list of metrics, then they will probably start thinking about everything they could measure, like one of the startups that we had did. So try to take them, okay, what's the most relevant one? Start with those, and then they can dig deeper, because you can always dig deeper as well. So they can measure, for example, in Ocean Impact Navigate, it's tons of seaweed, but that doesn't say too much about the actual impact that the company have. So they need to understand, okay, if we produce this amount of seaweed, what happens then? So okay, how is it used? If it's used like for fertilizers, that will have one impact. If they is used for food, that will have another impact. So they need to understand and be curious about the solutions that I have. So start being that, and don't ask too much from investors. And of course, for the startups or for the companies, it's easier if the investors are asking the same questions, instead of everybody asking them to fill in different questionnaires and different metrics, and then they have to spend a lot of time doing that, even though it doesn't seem too much from our side, and I know it's a lot from their side.
Thanks, Ingrid. I think I would summarize that with like using standardized content as a bare minimum starting point, and not the end goal. And like we've achieved everything if we've measured. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that. And Carmen, I'll ask the same too.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. I think that standardized metrics really let us speak with a broader community that is not aware of the oceans. I mean, just like from an outsider perspective, if you see the ocean sector, I mean, we might be all working in oceans, so for us it's very obvious. But for other communities that are not engaged with the oceans, we really need standardized metrics to be able to communicate with them in their language. So we need to be able to also show the importance. I mean, we are already advancing, and it has grown, but we still have a lack of solution investments, and really it's a life supporting system that we all need to be aware for the health of the whole planet. So I mean, at the end, standardized metrics are like a piece to be able to relate with key stakeholders beyond the ocean ecosystem also. So we need to continue doing the work if we want to create the impact, why we are really working on this at the end, no? So, I mean, maybe I open a little bit too much the conversation, but at the same time, we really need to keep the perspective and understand where we are and where do we want to get, no? And for that, standard metrics are key.
Just
Thanks,
quick
Carmen.
comment for me as well. I think that's really, really important as well. We had like hundreds of different metrics a few years ago, and that was chaos when investors ask, okay, what kind of impact does your fund have? And then I couldn't answer, because it's like, okay, we have some here and some here and some here. So we want to push them a little bit into shape so that we can aggregate the impact that the company have.
Great. I think we're starting to have questions on the Q&A section for everyone who's listening in. Feel free to drop your Q&A. You can see that at the bottom right of the bar if you bring your cursor to it. So the first question we have is, why is it more difficult to collect data in the ocean space than in the other thematic area? I think I will relay that. I'll start with Carmen.
Yes, of course.
You raised it.
So I think, I mean, as we have already mentioned, the ocean is an emergent sector, and it's recently starting to be measured. So we also do not have like a huge vast of information and a baseline. And also the ocean is harder because it's vast, it's remote, it's dynamic. And unlike, for example, land-based ecosystems or land-based projects that have been measured for a longer period of time, the oceans have also a physical, harder access. And we have some solutions from the portfolio companies that really are creating some some innovations that need to access well, these like harder, let's say, ecosystems to reach. So also you have to take into consideration that conditions in the oceans change rapidly. And I think that's why we really need to have the tools as IRIS Plus and the Ocean Impact Navigator to really start creating this whole aggregated data and a baseline so that we can move forward. But it is really like a much harder ecosystem because of all of its dynamics. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Gail, would you like to add anything since you were smiling?
Yes, I think that's the emphasis is on the ocean changes daily, right? Climate changes, the ocean, fish move, they leave geographies. And so being flexible, and I think that is the biggest challenge that we face as a field, the need for aggregated data and standardization, when in fact what you're measuring often is moving, literally moving around the world, right? So I think as a community of practice, we have to recognize that, right? And I hope we embrace that ability to adapt just as the oceans are. So if you move into the space, there is predictability in terms of revenue being generated, but the same vulnerability exists and the inability to measure. So don't get frustrated by that. Embrace it and understand that as a community, we have to recognize the changes that are inherent to ocean and marine conservation, especially with climate change.
Thanks, Gail. Ingrid, do you want to add something within 30 seconds?
Yeah, just not everything is as difficult to measure, but some things, of course, if it's underwater. So if you want to monitor a coral reef, you need technologies for that as well. So depending on what you're measuring, but that's also studies to try to understand what you actually are changing.
Thank you. And I think I would add from the experience I've had with the IRIS Plus working group members, which come up repeatedly because we ask these questions. Can you actually, yes, you love this metric, but can you actually meaningfully collect data on it? And then we see some like fewer raised hands. And the three things I would say that spoke out a lot. First is cost. Not a lot of both investors and investors are able to, it's so expensive collecting data in the ocean. So expensive, the technology, it's much easier to use a proxy than to act or like wait on an act like a government level data to kind of like map it to your contribution and kind of seeing how that adds. But the cost is remaining a challenge. Second is regulatory barriers that not everywhere you can actually meaningfully collect data. You don't have the legal rights to do so or the know-how. And the third is fragmentation, because where the ocean system ecosystem is so broad, but it's also so fragmented, and like each groups that work kind of simultaneously don't speak to each other or don't know each other, who else is there, who else is doing what. And there's a lack of coordination to actually see like where your impact is truly coming from, and then how do you measure that. So we've repeatedly discussed it, so I just wanted to share. So with that, I would like to thank all of our speakers for this incredibly meaningful conversation today and their work with this team throughout the development. And I would also like to thank our colleagues at the GEN, our IRIS Plus IMM team, who have worked on the background. We have various colleagues. We have Kellen, Grace, Golshan, Ritika. Big shout out to all of you, as well as our comms colleagues, our fundraising colleagues, the whole team effort that went behind in the launch of this work. Incredibly grateful for the Gen friends who've contributed. So thank you, everyone. And we hope that, yes, Grace, I apologize. I totally forgot Grace. My colleague Grace, who's also diligently has been working on this. And yes, we hope that you find this content useful and give us more and more feedback so you can make this work better. All right. Take care, everyone.